Continuing from the previous lesson, now it is time to add fields to our recipe content type. Click on this add field button to start. Observe this page for a moment. You can either create a brand new field from here, or you can reuse an existing field from here. Even the new fields that you create will thus be available for reuse later on from here. This is a very good reusable design by Drupal. I will first add existing fields that I already know exists in the system. The title and body fields will already exist by default when you create any new content type, so you don't have to worry about them. Our recipe will need an image field. So let's add that now. You have an image option here. Every time you add a field, you can configure its behavior, and you will get a lot of options to tailor exactly what you want. This is the customization page. For example, you can set a default image, you can make this field a mandatory required field, and so on. There are a lot of options. And this will happen for every field that we add from now on. To keep the focus on content type creation and to keep the lesson short, I am going to just accept the defaults. You should, however, explore these options in greater detail. Returning back to the adding fields page, I will next add the pre-existing comments field. Once again, I'm going to keep all the defaults and save settings. And finally, I want the tags field. This is entity reference, which is since this is a free form taxonomy, on this configuration page, do not forget to set the vocabulary correctly. We want to link to tags. I have discussed this in great detail in the taxonomy section. Save settings. Returning back once again, now comes the fun part. I'm going to add brand new custom fields. Look at the options that are available here in the dropdown. You have Boolean, date, email, then float, integer, decimal, float, and so on. Those who are familiar with programming will recognize immediately that the options are actually similar to a programming language's data types. In this case, it is PHP. In this field type, I will keep things very simple by just using this simple free-form plain text for all the samples from now on. This will give us a simple text field with no formatting constraints, just a limitation on the size. My advice is that you should never overthink the field data type too much upfront. Only after actually using the content creation form a few times, you will get the perfect choices. I will now quickly create a bunch of fields that make up our recipe metadata. As I said, there's just the maximum length, and I will give a help text for what that field stands for. How many people can be served from the quantity of food this recipe creates? You should also give as much help text as possible. Next field, again, I'm just going to take plain text, and this is the contributed by. Now you can understand why I removed the author information earlier on, because I'm giving this contributed by, and this will hold the name of the person who actually gave this recipe to our website. Okay, once again, make sure you give meaningful help text everywhere. Next one I got is time to cook. Incidentally, the external recipe site that I showed had 3 different cooking times. That is the preparation time, actual cooking time, and the time it takes for the overall dish to get ready. There were 3 different. I'm just keeping it simple with a single time to cook field. You can make this as elaborate as you want. Once again, this time I want to add calorie information. I want to capture calorie information. Keep all defaults and save. So we have added a bunch of fields now, and the very last one is for footnotes. This is to capture any final tips and tricks or any other information that will generally not be inside the actual recipe itself. And that makes up the last of our custom brand new fields. And finally, now I have added all the custom fields. There is still something missing. Can you guess what? If you remember, I had created 7 taxonomy fields from the earlier project lesson. They also should be added to our new recipe content type. We had added them to article type earlier. They are all here in the existing field dropdown. But to keep this demo simple and also to not clutter up the content form that we are going to see next, I will not add them now. In real life situations, you would definitely not want to leave out the taxonomy terms, obviously. So finally, at this point, all our fields are in place and our new content type will be fully functional and ready to use. But we can optionally design how the form appears to the content author, that is the input, and how the content will appear to the visitor of the site, that is the output. This will make our recipe type really polished. And that will be the gist of our next lesson. So join me there.